Hey everyone, before we dive in, please hit that subscribe button to join my channel and become part of our amazing community. Now, let's get into the story. My name is Avery, 32 years old, and I'm the older twin by a mere 6 minutes. My whole life, I've mastered the art of fading into the background next to my brother, Connor. But nothing could have braced me for what unfolded that night. It was his engagement party. The room buzzed with laughter, glasses chiming as if joy could mask the truth. Then my father rose, his face glowing with pride, clutching an envelope. He summoned Connor forward. Inside was a deed, not just any deed, but my deed. The apartment I'd poured my savings into, fixed up and rebuilt with my own hands. The one they swore would one day be mine. The room exploded in applause, loud as a storm. I stood there motionless, a half-empty glass shaking in my grip. In that instant, it hit me. In my family, love came with strings, and I'd finally fallen short. Tonight, the unseen twin would vanish for good. Part 2, The Shadow Child. Growing up beside Connor was like existing in the shade of a blazing star. He basked in their warmth. I lingered in the dark. A B- from him sparked a family feast. My honor roll? A curt, "That's nice, Avery," before their attention swung back to him. The message was clear before I could even write my name. Connor was the prize, and I was the spare. By 27, I'd carved out a modest life, a small marketing gig, a long commute, and a faint hope that one day my parents might truly see me. Then, over dinner, Mom's voice, sweet with calculated kindness, said, "We've been thinking. You could move into Grandma's old place. They'd charge me 3/4 of market rent," she added, as if it were a gift. I forced a smile. It felt like another test, not help. But I said yes, because in my family, scraps of care were treated like treasures. Stepping into that apartment, I nearly broke down. The floors sagged like a bad omen. Walls were stained a sickly yellow. The air reeked of decay, and the kitchen hummed with ancient, failing appliances. It wasn't a home. It was a tomb left unburied. Still, I took it. I painted those walls myself. I ripped out carpet until my hands bled. I scrubbed mold from tiles until my lungs burned. Some nights, I collapsed on the floor, too exhausted to move. I learned which pipes dripped, which outlets sparked. Every bruise and cut seemed to whisper, "Maybe now they'll see you." For a while, I believed hard work could earn their love. When you're raised on scraps, even crumbs feel like a banquet. They called it kindness. I called it survival training. Part 3, Building What They Undervalued. For the first time, I felt grounded. That crumbling apartment with its cracked walls was my sanctuary, the one place free of Connor's shadow. Every paycheck, I set aside a bit more for paint, tools, and fixtures, details my parents overlooked but meant everything to me. I'd work late, come home to peeling walls and noisy pipes, and turn fatigue into progress. One weekend, I replaced every outlet myself. The electrician who checked my work said, "You saved this place from catching fire." I smiled, not from pride, but relief, because saving something finally mattered. My parents visited occasionally, glancing around like they were appraising a project, not my home. "You're really sprucing this up," Mom said, her fingers brushing a freshly painted wall. "It'll be worth so much more when you're done." That phrase, "when you're done," lodged in my chest. Did they even hear themselves? Dad called it checking his investment. Sometimes he'd bring Connor, who'd joke about moving in after me. I'd laugh, because that's what good daughters do. But quietly I started keeping receipts, every paint can, every appliance, every invoice with my name. Then came the day they sat on my couch, their faces heavy with that rehearsed parental sadness. "Avery, the bank's threatening foreclosure," Mom said softly. "We owe $30,000. We can't lose this place," Dad added. "Think of it as an investment. This apartment will be yours someday." Someday. That word had dangled over me since childhood. Always one more sacrifice away. But I believed them, because they were my parents. Because I wanted to. That week, I sent every cent of my savings. My hand shook as I hit confirm. It felt like buying their love at a discount. But I told myself this time was different. This time, I wasn't the afterthought. This time, I was chosen. For a few weeks, I let myself believe it. They smiled at me. Dad even said, "We're proud of you, Avery," words I'd waited 3 decades to hear. The next month, things seemed normal. No talk of debt, no talk of the future, just quiet. But sometimes quiet isn't peace, it's the sound of a trap snapping shut. I kept every receipt. I just hadn't used them yet. Part 4, The Public Betrayal. 2 weeks later, Connor called me at work, his voice brimming with excitement. "Claire and I are engaged. You're coming to the party, right?" I smiled into the phone. Of course I'd be there. He was still my brother. The party was warm and golden, laughter flowing like wine through Claire's parents' house. Everyone looked flawless. Glasses clinked, music hummed, lights glowed softly. For a moment, I let myself feel joy for him. Then my father cleared his throat. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The room hushed. Mom's hand rested on his arm, her smile polished and practiced. "Diane and I have something special for Connor," Dad said, a gift to launch his new life. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Connor's grin told me he already knew what was inside. My stomach churned before my brain caught up. Dad handed him the papers. Connor unfolded them, eyes gleaming. "The deed," he said, voice cracking. "You're giving us the apartment." Dad nodded, beaming. "It's time, son. You've earned it." Applause roared like a tidal wave. The sound crashed over me. Glasses clinked, laughter swelled. Someone shouted, "That's amazing." Mom glowed. Claire's parents embraced her. And I stood frozen, half a glass in hand, half a ghost. My apartment, the one I'd bled for, paid for, rebuilt from decay to light. The one I'd saved with $30,000 I no longer had. I tried to breathe, but the air was thick with perfume and betrayal. My Aunt Barbara's voice cut through. "Wait, isn't that Avery's apartment?" The laughter stumbled. Every eye turned to me, curious, pitying, confused. The chandelier's light caught the tears I refused to let spill. Dad didn't waver. "Avery's been staying there for years. It's time she moves on." Mom added, "We've been generous enough," as if I were a guest who'd overstayed. Heat surged in my throat. I wanted to scream that I'd paid rent every month, rebuilt every corner, saved it when they couldn't. But 30 years of silence held my voice captive. Connor hugged Dad, whispering, "Thank you." Mom kissed his cheek. The crowd cheered louder, and I stood there, invisible in the open. I slipped out before dessert, no goodbyes, no words, just headlights, tears, and the dawning truth that the family I'd fought to belong to had just erased me from my own life. They took my home. I gave myself permission. They thought silence broke me. They didn't know what silence had taught me. Part 5, The Reckoning. That night, I drove home in silence. Somewhere between the applause and the tears, something in me broke, quietly, sharply, like a thread stretched too far. No music, no sobs, just the echo of clapping ringing in my mind. When I unlocked the door, I didn't see an apartment anymore. I saw proof. 5 years of evidence, paint cans, invoices, receipts, sweat soaked into the walls. They thought they could erase me, so I decided to show them what erasure really meant. I called Olivia. "Can I crash at your place for a bit?" "Of course," she said. "What's wrong?" "Later," I replied. "I just need space and a moving truck." By morning, I had a plan, precise, relentless, and beautiful. I started with the appliances. Every hum of the dishwasher, every chill of the fridge, I'd paid for them all. I called the service company. "Unhook everything. Take it all." The man paused. "Ma'am, that'll leave the place bare." "Exactly," I said. By 9 a.m., they were there, unplugging the stove, hauling out the fridge, unscrewing every light fixture I'd installed. The drill sang like freedom. It was the sound of reclaiming my power. Next, the floors. The laminate I'd laid down, plank by plank, with my own money. They pried it up, revealing the old, stained, brittle carpet beneath, their version of me. By dusk, the apartment looked like it did when I arrived. Broken, empty, unloved. Perfect. The movers came next, taking furniture, boxes, tools, everything. I left only dust and echoes. Then I wrote a note. "I've moved out as you asked. The apartment is yours now." I sealed the keys inside and sent it by courier. The next morning, my phone blew up. Calls, texts, voicemails dripping with fury. You wrecked the apartment. You're spiteful. We'll call the cops. I answered once. Go ahead. Tell them I took what I paid for. And tell them about the $30,000 you took. Silence. Then I hung up. But I wasn't done. There was one more debt to settle. 3 years ago, I'd lent them my blue Honda Civic, still in my name, still insured by me. I called a tow company. Pick it up at this address. Plate KM 2000. An hour later, the driver sent a photo. The car was mine again. Mom called one last time. You can't do this to us. I already did, I said. You showed me how. That night, I sold the car. $12,000 in my account. Not revenge, just balance. For the first time, I felt no guilt for claiming what was mine. They stole my home. I took back my freedom. Revenge didn't heal the past, but it cleared room for a future I could live in. Part 6, The Freedom. 3 weeks later, my phone rang again. Not with anger, but with the quiet after a storm. It wasn't my family this time, it was Claire. Can we talk? She asked. We met at a small downtown coffee shop. Her eyes were red, her smile faint. Your parents told me what happened, she said. They said you ruined everything. I stayed silent. She took a deep breath. Then I learned the truth. She knew about the money, the renovations, the eviction, everything. I can't marry into that, she whispered. Connor called you jealous, but all I see is strength. I didn't gloat. I just nodded. For the first time, someone saw me, not the overlooked twin, not the spare daughter, just Avery. A month later, the wedding was canceled. Aunt Barbara said my parents were livid, spitting my name like a curse. I smiled. Let them. I was staying at Ryan's empty house by then. No rent, no guilt, no ghosts. I filled it with the same hands that once rebuilt a broken apartment, but this time, I was building a life. Each morning felt lighter, each silence earned. I bought flowers for the kitchen table, cooked breakfast for myself, laughed at my own jokes. I stopped waiting for someone to notice I was there, because I knew I was. Sometimes I missed the idea of family, but then I'd recall what it felt like to beg for conditional love. Now I don't beg. I choose. I choose peace, boundaries, myself. If anyone calls that selfish, they've never known what it's like to survive being unseen. I didn't lose a family, I lost my captors. And for the first time, I'm free. Wherever you're watching from, sipping morning coffee or winding down late at night, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe to join a community that knows strength isn't silence, it's knowing when to walk away.